I'm sure if I'm feeling a bit emotional at the moment. Um, uh, I was just dealing with a universal credit message about having my assessment chased up to. I haven't been assessed yet since my in this sort of stage of universal credit, and I think just sort of talking about it was just really brings up a lot of pain just to go through an assessment, the stress of that, and so maybe I'll try best not to think too much about it. Yeah, I was, in terms of being emotional or just feeling it's difficult, I think it was before I received a message on my Universal Credit Journal. This was more just, it seems to be a bit of a, even though nothing's happened in some respects, maybe in my mind it feels it's been a bit of a chaotic day. I got up with the idea of walking somewhere a bit further than I usually walk. Maybe a year or two ago, and definitely before that, on the years gone by, I used to walk quite far to a cafe or coffee shop just to write, and the reason I'd walk so far is because I'll try and go to a pleasant area in a city, or a pleasant walk as well, just to get a workout and some exercise. And I was kind of building myself up, maybe from last night. There was that intention again to really do a good writing session, and there was the belief as well that I could, and there was clarity in the desire that I wanted to do like a writing session, meaning a certain amount of immersion in writing that can be rewarding once you're in there. I think immersion generally can be quite rewarding during an enjoyable activity, like even reading or an immersive sort of walked a long way. Sometimes there's almost a bit of a high or a bit of an enjoyment of doing something continuously and being immersed. And I kind of felt like I wanted that. I haven't done writing like that for a long time, so in retrospect, I was probably being maybe unrealistic to do that. But so I showered and immediately I think I had a bit of a delayed start, and if I woke up a bit later, because sleep was difficult again. It's been difficult the last few days with sleep, and I haven't really had much caffeine at all. I had no caffeine yesterday, very little I think the day before, and I've not had any sort of caffeine today. Yeah, and it seemed like the idea quickly deflated, it quickly dwindled away, and I was just like, just feeling disheartened about that. And then again, just trying to map out the rest of the day, thinking, okay, what should I do? And I managed to, it feels like I've already forgotten, but I managed to go for a walk around the park. I thought, okay, let's do a writing session at home. And so I thought, it'd be good to get some exercise and continue listening to the audiobook I'm listening to. So I kind of managed that, and it was still a bit cold and it was rainy as well. So I was kind of acknowledging myself as I was walking, saying, well done for getting out and for doing the exercise. And I was listening to the audiobook, and then when I got back, I kind of, slipped in to try and do some writing, and then I think it just hit me that, things have just changed. Even though I wanted to believe I could do it, wanted to almost push myself and force myself to do something that I haven't done in a long while, especially to that extent. And I wrote. It took such a weight just to try and dial into the novel, and the weight of just sort of navigating the story and characters and things that just managed to write a paragraph, and I was already don't know what word to use, maybe worn out, or I think I was just disheartened as I was writing, knowing that for the time being, maybe for the foreseeable future, that won't be possible. And it makes everything all painful as well, because I have to constantly almost assess where I am with the writing. I have to constantly reassure myself, or constantly almost smooth out creases that are developing. For instance, to write a novel to try and get published, it feels it's too much of a heavy pressure on my mind now, that it's too much for my mind to take, which is painful, because it's I've kind of been, that ambition of that has been keeping me going for like almost a decade. The idea of almost writing my way out of stuff, or writing my way, maybe more accurately, writing my way through stuff, through pain, and it doesn't feel like that's a viable option for me at the moment. And so I think I was looking for the word reframe. I have to constantly reframe things, especially with the writing. So now I have to reframe it to, okay, I'm just trying to write for enjoyment, write to complete the story. But it's hard to let go of that ambition to send this off to an agent, and with that brings a tremendous amount of pressure and stress and expectation and standards as well. It's I don't know if I can completely separate from that as I write. For the time being, I'm just trying to, even though those thoughts are there in the background about publishing and finishing off to publish and to continue to write, I try to use writing as just something to keep myself mentally focused. But as I found, just early this afternoon, that it's just painful to write, because it requires so much mental energy to hold a story in my head. And I've tried to adapt with writing down plot points and writing down things I wouldn't usually write down, I'd just keep in my head. But still, it's really, for example, if I'm thinking about the next scene to write, I don't really have things completely plotted out really. It just takes so much brain power to just sit there and allow the sort of creativity to churn out, and before it will flow very easily, but now it's it's a struggle, and it makes sense. If I'm struggling mentally in lots of capacities, then it makes sense that in this capacity of being creative, that there's going to be difficulty there as well. I don't want to come to terms with that, because it's kind of a last thread that I'm a very small amount of fulfillment that's in my life at the moment. And it's even fulfillment seems like a strong word, because it's becoming less fulfilling in some respects, but it's all, in a sense, it's all I know. So it's a large part of my sort of mental health journey. It's been one of the some in those times pillars of support, and now crutch as well, to use writing. And it feels like I'll probably still continue to write, but it's almost a painful sort of stumbling around versus what it used to be. Yeah, and I think to go back to reframing, I think it's been like this for a while, but I think there's been times when I felt a bit more well, and so those thoughts, desires to do some more sort of solid, continuous work seemed realistic and hopeful, and now it's becoming less and less realistic for that to happen. Even though I'm holding on to like maybe these standards of writing, in regards to the time I put in, how and I think I was already feeling a bit wobbly on top of everything else, and yeah. I had a moment early today. I was trying to figure out lunch, and I had these sort of vegetarian burgers, and if they're made out of edamame or dami beans, I don't know, I can't remember how you pronounce them. And I was just there, I paralysed almost. I didn't know how many burgers to make or what else to have with it. And so I put 2 on a baking tray, these small burgers. I thought, okay, is that enough? Should I have 2? And it was just confusion, and it was really difficult, and it was frustrating as well. It's almost like the mind had stalled, like a car in driving something, it stalls, but you can't get it started again. That's what it felt like. I was just waiting for something to kick in while I stood there. And eventually I just said, let's have 2, just to make a decision. I didn't know if 2 would be too much or if that would work, and I just had to almost make a decision. But it was, just very energy sapping, and just maybe the thought of, oh, this is my life now. I'm struggling to, to make an easy decision like that, or to figure something out like that, like lunch. Spent a large part of this week sort of in my own company. I haven't really seen or spoken to anyone really that much, I don't think. I may have spoken to a friend at the start of the week, or it might have been the end of last week. But besides that, I've not really had much contact with people, and I can sense that's becoming stronger as well. Where it's harder. As I mentioned, it's probably a slow sort of gradient, but I can sense it's still going down in that way, which is sort of painful realization as well to think that. And one thing to perhaps talk about, this idea of a writing session, it's strange in a way because it feels like in some respects, it feels like a big grandiose idea in the light of, that I'm struggling so much with just very simple, small things. So maybe that was just too, because I'm in a place now where literally it's, okay, what can I do to get through the afternoon? What should I do? Okay, let's watch some, ASMR, let's play a tiny bit of poker, let's do 10 minutes of reading, and maybe to kind of go for a long walk somewhere outside. Going out is its own challenge for me as well. And I can just sense that it was way too much for me to do, even though in my head it's still that desire to do it. So maybe even tomorrow, who's to say what will happen? I may suddenly try and walk somewhere and write and try and write. I don't know, but it just feels in the scheme of things, I could just see this huge circle, this idea of walking somewhere nice, and I had like an idea of really immersing in the audiobook as I walked 40 minutes or an hour somewhere, and then maybe trying to find somewhere there to get lunch, and then there was thoughts of or realizing that it might be better to plan, because those things are really challenging to make decisions and to think on your feet. It's difficult. So, and then to going back, there's a big circle of this idea, and then all these tiny circles of what my life is like. These tiny few minute increments of, okay, let's watch this this ASMR video or this YouTube video. Let's watch that for a bit, or if possible, sit yourself down to watch a film and do this. And it feels like it's so much a smaller way of what I can manage. It's kind of trying to maybe adjust how I am, adjust my expectations and even my aspirations right now, where something like I did effortlessly before when I used to do, it's now requires a lot more energy and planning and potential the capability not to be there anymore for that to happen. I'm feeling quite distressed in this moment, so maybe it's good for me just to try and deal with that right now after recording this. I was planning on just putting on some ASMR, maybe just playing a little bit of poker, just as a good distraction, and the ASMR will help with soothing. Maybe that might be. And another thing that upset me before logging on to Universal Credit to check my journal message. It was just a flash thought about the surgery and the doctor and having to explain stuff again, and how that whole trigger, I guess, I could feel a huge wave of pain coming up, and it sort of stayed, it stayed here, has not come up and overwhelmed me completely or triggered me in that sense, but it's like there. It's kind of, and I trying to wait for it to recede again, not for it to, escalate and increase. Because I can almost sense my chest tightening and a bit of a suffocation with that as well, as those thoughts flashed in my head about doctor's appointment and seeing a doctor for this autistic referral, re-referral I've got to do again as well. um, and the anger of that question, I guess, you know, that I mentioned before. And I think I was maybe in that short moment, there's flashes of ahead of time of trying to explain that triggers me, and trying to explain myself, which is always, again, extremely difficult. So I have a sense this. I'm seeing a doctor on, I think it's the 5th of January. It's the earliest appointment I could get. And maybe if this is the way I'm feeling now, I sense it's going to be a really difficult appointment for me to do, and probably different as well, because usually I'm quite good at not quite masking symptoms, but sort of putting on a brave face in a sense. And part of that is a bit of a reflex almost of being in a strange sort of place with someone you don't really know, someone in the medical profession as well, where it's hard to feel completely safe and not judged, and so we just focus on the rest of the day. I've got to almost zoom into the day a little bit and sort of be kind about what's happened, and not trying to beat myself up over anything. For example, not being able to do the writing session, or not having a hard time figuring out a very simple sort of thought process or decision for lunch. So maybe just re-emphasize it was good. I managed to walk around the park. That was good for me to do. I managed to sort of adjust, and I could have easily have not gone out today with the disappointment of sort of the idea of what I wanted to do collapsing again. And I managed to eat okay today. I had some porridge this morning, so actually just before I had those sort of burger sandwiches, that I was feeling very jittery, like my blood sugar had dropped or something, and I was feeling suddenly really like strange in my body, and wondering if that was blood sugar, and which I've felt before when I've not had food when I've been hungry. What's today? Thursday. So I've a council appointment tomorrow, Friday morning. So I think for the last few weeks I've had the sense of wanting to write stuff down for the counselling appointment to talk about, because sometimes I feel like I don't make the best use of time with the sessions. I'm not sure that's being hard on myself, or maybe sometimes it's better to have a bit of a guide sometimes of things because of my memory, and of course it's nice to talk about things and as they flow and come into my mind, but just feel like maybe there's some important things that I ought to talk about, or that happened in a week that I've either forgotten, or I'll see how I feel later. Maybe it's too much to kind of think about that at the moment. So I think for the time being, just and make a hot drink for myself as well. I've got hopefully I've got enough of this barley drink that I can have kind of an alternative to coffee. It's like a barley chicory sort of non-coffee drink. Maybe that would be good for a bit of comfort to have that, and maybe watch some ASMR, maybe play a bit of poker. So sometimes I play like one or two hands and I feel like anxious, or I feel, oh, that's enough for me. But maybe I can just start with that. And I've got a book that I'm reading as well that I think it was a couple of days ago, I purposely sort of read a couple of pages just to get myself more dialed into a book, because I feel like when I'm not connected to a book, then it'll be hard for me to go back to read it. So I'm kind of, it feels like I'm losing my grip on it again. So it'd be good to maybe read a few more pages of this. I've got another John Grisham book, so maybe I can try and read that this afternoon. And I think for the evening, just see how I feel, what I feel like will help me in the evening, whether it's to watch a movie or something of the like. Yeah, it's maybe a good time to stop and maybe start doing that now, to just hopefully try and calm myself down a bit. And not only that, but maybe can't think of the words to say. Yeah, maybe that's it for now. Maybe not sure what I've said has made sense, but it's hard to know sometimes how much these vlogs help as well. I don't know. I think if they had a huge negative impact, then I probably would record less. But yeah, but I don't know how much positive impact or how much it's helping. It's hard to measure, really. How much it's helping, but it must be, I assume, if I'm sort of going back to record, especially at difficult times, which is majority of the time when I record. It's deep breathing. That's another thing I can try and do as well. I know some ASMR videos are quite good, where they're almost like guided meditations, and they kind of guide me to breathe and to, if I'm feeling anxious too. So that might be good to watch, and start there.